everybody. Welcome back to another episode of American Soccer Quick Kicks. I'm your host, David Wright, and if you haven't done it yet, please go ahead and hit subscribe. One thing I try to do with this channel is to appeal to both the non-soccer fan who's open to the sport and to the casual fan who wants to learn more. This video is going to be another one where I try to talk about the action on the field, how to decipher it, how to see the code, so it doesn't just like a bunch of random guys running around and a ball bouncing back and forth. Now, if you're someone who's decided that you hate soccer and you're never going to like it, I'm not going to change your mind. But if you want to love it and just can't get into it, maybe I can help you out. I mean, why not have something else in your life that you love? I spent last video talking about a few of the rules that seem to confuse or frustrate American sports fans. And I want to try to spend this video talking about what's happening on the field. It's not just a bunch of random guys running around like you might see at your fifth graders soccer game out at the rec park. So the first thing to realize is that teams do play in formations. There are definite positions that players play. You have different roles at different places on the field. There are people dedicated to defense, there are midfielders, there are forwards. And you'll find that their relationship to each other on the field is fairly constant throughout the match. There is the opportunity for any player to move into space or to go on a run. There's a freedom of movement. There's a liquid nature to this game where you can go anywhere you need to in the moment as you're playing the ball. But when that opportunity has passed, you'll see that player will default back to their position. Okay, so the resting spot, the default spot, is the set formation that the coach has decided to play. And you're going to see that once you know the players and you know the formation, you don't even have to get a good look at the player on television. Just where they are on the field, you know who that player is because of the position they're playing. So there are definite positions to this game. It's not just chaos out there. So the one thing I would tell you to do, the first thing to do, and it's the easiest thing to do in my opinion, is you identify the defense. Who are the defenders? It's easy to see this on kickoffs. And it's also easy to see it when the attacking team is working the ball in the offensive third of the field. In other words, it's not a transition moment. It's not a fast break down the field, but they've settled into so-called, half-court offense, so to speak, where they're working the ball around the box and trying to find a way to get through the defense. When the defense is organized, it's going to be very clear who are the defenders. It's that back line. A lot of times teams are either playing 3 in the back or they're playing 4 in the back. And in formations where they have 3, they get help on the outside when they need it. So a lot of times you'll see 5 in the back in certain situations. But know who the defenders are. See who they are, and then I think it'll start to become a little more clear who the midfielders are, who the striker is, and you'll see that they all have their own roles in the game, and they all stay fairly consistent, in relation to each other where they're placed on the field. The thing to remember about soccer and how it's different from football, and by the way, soccer is soccer and football is football. I'm not going to try to qualify that every time. This is American Soccer Quick Kick, so I think you know where I stand on that. But in football, it is clearly a game of distance, right? It's about every yard is some degree of success, and it's a very regimented field. Every yard is marked off and every yard is a victory. It's a game of distance. It's about just what can you do to progress this ball forward, and you never want to go backwards. And I love that sport. I love football. Football is right there with soccer in my mind. I follow it every year. But it's interesting to me how some friends of mine who are hardcore football fans, which I consider myself to be one, they somehow feel threatened by soccer. They feel like they have to explain why football is better than soccer. And I don't understand that debate. These are two different sports. They're not in competition with one another. Just because you like soccer doesn't mean you don't like football. They're not the same. Football is a game of distance. And here's where it's different. Soccer is a game of space. Distance is less important. It's more about space. You need to play the ball where there is space. You need to take the ball where there is space. You need to play the ball into space and let a teammate run onto it. So much about this game is about playing into space or trying to create space. And so when a team is trying to work the ball through the midfield, and of course the other teams getting in their way and trying to stop it, the movement you're seeing around them is simply their teammates trying to move into space, trying to provide a passing lane. And so once you begin to see that the game is about space, it begins to make more sense. Like a backwards pass is not a big deal. Who cares if it goes backwards? If the ball's on one side of the field and the defense has kind of all drifted in that direction, you've got one guy playing wide on the opposite side who's wide open. He's in tons of space, but you can't get the ball to him because the field's too crowded around you. You've got one passing lane backward toward that's in the direction of your own goal. One pass to that guy, he switches the field, kicks it over to the guy who's open. Suddenly the ball is in space. So a backwards pass, a lot of times, is the smartest play because you'll be able to switch the field faster than any defender can ever run. Also, possession is more important than progression. Again, with it not being a game of distance, you can make up a huge amount of distance toward the goal very quickly with a single pass, but you've got to have the space to pull it off. And one reason this game is so low scoring is that it's so easy to disrupt what the attacking team is trying to do. You know, one defender gets 1 foot on the ball, then the whole thing falls apart. And so in order to try to maintain the advantage in the game, possession becomes a lot more important than making sure you're going forward. So you'll see teams often drop the ball back to the goalkeeper. Why? Because it's the safest pass. You would rather maintain possession, and the goalkeeper can take it, look at the whole field, identify where the space is, and play the ball into that. Sometimes you're playing the ball short, sometimes you're playing it long. It just depends on the space. So the other thing that you got to keep in mind is the offside line. If you're not familiar with the offside rule, please go back to a previous video on this channel where I talk about it. But so much of the action that you'll see on the screen is being shaped by the offside rule. Okay, so that last line of defenders, whenever they can, and you'll see them do it a lot, but they're trying to remain organized and remain as a single unit along that back line, because any guy on that back line who's dropped back a little bit further, he's moving the offside line with him. And if you're not staying together as a unit, that one guy that's out on an island way back here, he's letting all these players have open space closer to the goal without anybody marking them. So you're going to see defenders try to stay in the same line along the back. And whenever they can, they're going to push up the field. And you'll see them push up together because, again, you don't want to leave one straggler behind and the offside line stay back there with him. And so when the ball's being played and worked around the offensive third, or in this case, their defensive third, they're going to look for opportunities, probably every time there's a backwards pass, to push that back line up the field. And hey, if you can catch an opponent in an offside position, that's great. But what you're really trying to do is get them away from your goal, right? The more you drop back, the closer they can get to your goal. So as a unit, you try to push up and you squeeze the field upward. You'll see that happening a lot, and that dictates. It's kind of like a school of fish. There's a lot of bodies out there, but when that back line moves, everybody's got to react to it. So you're going to see that's why that is happening. And the other flip side of that is when you're on the attack, you have to respect that offside line. So you're going to see a lot of times players are just like wanting the ball, wanting the pass to come to them, but they're holding back their run and they're trying to stay level with the defense. They're hoping to get the attention of the guy who has the ball to send it so he can start running into open space that's hopefully there behind the defense. So you're going to see attacking players holding their runs, and you're going to see defenders pushing up the field. All of this is related to the offside rule. So once you realize that's the dynamic and that's what's at play, then it's going to explain a lot of the movement that you see on the field. And the other thing to look for is the style of play, because there's several ways you can do this, and it depends on the strength of the players, what their strong areas are in the game. It depends on how strong the team is. It also depends on the matchups and how well you match up against your opponent. But sometimes you're going to see a team try to control the ball, and they'll play out of the back, which means when the goalkeeper restarts possession, he's not booming it up the field with a giant kick. He's rolling it out simply to a teammate that's nearby, and they try to work the ball up the field with possession. And they'll do this a lot of times with short, quick one-touch passes in combination with each other. This is about looking for space and being very quick with your passes. And the other side of that is, if you don't think you can play through the middle, you can play direct or over the top, which is that long kick from the goalkeeper to bypass the midfield altogether. This is a kind of a low percentage approach. You're just booming the ball upfield and just hoping that your forward can get to the ball first before the defenders do. This is a lot of teams resort to this in late stages of the game when they're just playing defense and trying to hold on for the win. And of course, it never works very well, right? You boom it out, you get rid of the immediate danger, but the other team immediately has it and they're coming right back down your throat. There are other ways you can look. There are defenders. A lot of times teams will look to get their defenders involved. Let me try that again. A lot of times teams will look to get their defenders involved in the attack, coming in on delayed runs or just providing the width, going up the sidelines. And so again, something to look for, a pattern of play. Okay. I'm trying to help you identify what's happening on the field. And sometimes that's happening. If you know who the defenders are, you've identified that back line, and then you see those guys making bombing runs or providing the width, you kind of understand what's going on a little bit. The other thing is what's happening with the forward. Okay. That striker who's usually hanging around the box, hoping to score. You have different types of strikers, different styles of play that you can see. One is simply a target striker where you're sitting there in the box, hoping the ball comes to you so you can have a simple finish. I say simple, a one-touch finish, whether that's with your head or your foot. You're depending on your teammates to provide the service, to put the ball on a platter for you, and it's your job to finish. Or else the wingers are bringing the ball up the sides and they're just banging in crosses and putting the ball into a dangerous area in front of the goal and hoping that you get a head on it before a defender does. This is perfectly legitimate, and there's a lot of success with it. There's a lot of players that are very, very good at it. The other thing is you might have a forward who gets more involved in the buildup and in the play, drops into midfield and helps connect passes. Sometimes you have a false nine who's occupying that position in the field, but is less concerned with scoring and more about creating opportunities for others. Whether that's drawing defenders with you as you cross through the box, creating space for somebody else, or things like that. So know that there's formations. Know who the defense is. Watch how they act with respect to the offside line and how other players are forced to react to that. Same thing with the offensive players who are having to respect that offside line, how that affects them. Look for styles of play. Are they connecting through the midfield? Are they banging over the top? Do they have defenders on bombing runs on the outside? Are you playing for crosses to a target striker? Or is that striker dropping in and getting involved in the buildup? These are all things to look for. They're all very common, all different patterns of play, but they help determine, they help give a sense of order to what you're looking at on the field. I hope that this helps you. I've tried to put together a few of these thoughts. It's the first time I've ever tried to articulate it. Please let me know if that helps. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you think there's something I got wrong, if you think there's a point that I missed, or if that provided absolutely no clarity at all and you still need help, whatever it is, leave a comment, let me know. I hope that this is helping you. I see my view counts on my videos kind of go up and down. I can't really determine where my audience is. I want to talk about all the competitions that are going on involving Major League Soccer, and I want to talk about the U.S. men's team. But I also am very well aware that for the hardcore soccer fan, there's better places to go that's going to give you more in-depth coverage. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about it. But if I can appeal to the casual fan, or if I can convert some people from World Cup only soccer fans to being able to turn on the game and understand what's happening, or if I can even make you a fan of Major League Soccer, then that's what I want to do. But am I talking to the hardcore audience, or am I talking to the newbie audience? Please let me know. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. And if you think you have someone that could benefit from this, please share it with them. So in the meantime, watch some soccer with me, and I'll talk to you next time.